Hello, everyone. It is Heather and Deb, and we are here with another conversation. And this one, we're going real and raw, not totally sure where we're going to go with this. Because we're going to piggyback off of a conversation that we had, or have a continual conversation that we had 2 weeks ago, I guess.
And that was actually the last time. Yeah, that was our last one.
Yep. Yeah, when we talked about being reluctantly unoffended and living in this space where, like, people are offended by everything, and like, how do you navigate that? And we talked about how a lot of it was, when you're offended, like seeing what is going on for you first before pointing the fingers at everybody else. And this came up because Deb had was someone had told her that it's like the term woo woo is offensive, and so we had a conversation about that. But more stuff has come up for Deb in this the past couple of weeks. So we thought we'd just have the conversation here on live and see what comes up.
Let you all witness it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, I will elaborate on that in that. I mean, I think I've been in a bit of knots about it since that was introduced to me, the idea that woo-woo was offensive. And we had the conversation a couple of weeks ago. I kind of thought, okay, I'm good with this. Our intentions are pure, but the more that that conversation keeps occurring around me, I'm just not comfortable continuing to use the term. And we started talking about having this conversation where I was like, God, I'm really still very uncomfortable with this. I feel like we kind of need to change the name. Yesterday or the day before, there was an incident in Atlanta where several Asian women were murdered. And part of the rationale behind why the term woo-woo is offensive is it kind of also pulls in some Chinese culture and like I guess it's kind of misappropriating that term, which I feel like all of this in context together just makes me feel like I don't want to continue to support using this language, which I guess, on some level, I agree with what we said last week about choosing to be offended. On another level, the more that I look at why people are saying maybe we should stop using this term, those reasons are resonating a little bit more deeply with me. I had shared the post from Holisticism that kind of outlined where this was introduced to me. And I don't want to just continue to be somebody who is ignorant, like I like to be blissfully ignorant sometimes, but once someone makes you aware of something and you choose to continue to ignore it, for me, it just doesn't feel good. So the other side of it is that when we call all these practices woo-woo, and in this explanation, I know you disagree with this, and I love that we disagree, right? Like, I think we can. That's cool, and this is exactly part of what makes our conversations interesting, and I love being challenged in that way. But that it actually is a little bit dismissive of these practices, right? Like, I can see both sides of that. This is the Libra in me, I guess. But I really am like a mystical person. I do feel attached to these things that I know deep down in my core work for me. And I guess I don't want to contribute to the dismissive language. And I know that I edit myself when I'm in circles of people, particularly at work, that are like, that's just your woo-woo stuff. Or, they kind of mock like, oh, that reeks of astrology. And I just let it slide. I'm like, I'm not here to convince you if you're not interested. Cool. I'm not here to try to change your mind. I don't want to dismiss it when I'm in a circle that really does believe in that stuff. And I don't want to dismiss it for myself. So, that was a long way around saying I would really like to consider continuing our conversations under maybe a different name. And I love the principles behind why we came up with it, right? So I think you even bring a little bit more of the skepticism kind of to it than I sort of do. I think I've just fallen so deeply in that space that I don't really have any skepticism about any of it anymore. I'm sometimes astounded. I literally pulled a card before we got on this call. This is from the Archetypes deck by Kim Kranz. because I was like, what do I need to know about, about reluctantly woo woo, and what are we going to do with this? The freaking card is the destroyer. I mean, I was like, okay, well, that's pretty freaking clear.
Right.
Not that we have to destroy the thing altogether. I think we're having very valuable conversations. I don't think the context of what we talk about has to change at all. But I think bringing in the skeptic and the mystic, which actually is like, that's the title that keeps coming to me, like the skeptic and the mystic. And I looked and the Instagram handle is available, and we can use that. Because nothing about our intentions was wrong. Like, we're not trying to co-opt anybody's culture. We're not trying to make fun of a single thing. We're actually trying to say, hey, you people that are reluctant about it, this stuff it does work. It will help you. So we're supporting it. We're not making fun of it. And I guess that's where I come to the place of, maybe it is worth changing the language. Just, words do matter to me. I still will stay firmly in the camp of choose your own goddamn reactions, and you can choose not to be offended. I'm not going back on that conversation at all. But anyway, that was long-winded. But
yeah. So I'm curious, because for me, it is like you said, I probably bring more of the skepticism, but I'm like, I've done how many ayahuasca ceremonies, right? So far,
by the way, now there's conversations about that where I think you do them very ethically and you're making sure that you're having like proper guidance, but that's becoming more mainstream and becoming in some circles problematic too, because this is, where, I don't know, like maybe the mainstreaming of these spiritual things is where it starts to get uncomfortable. I have no idea. I don't know. Mm-hmm. I interrupt you, but yeah. I mean, that's true, because I have not done some of those things. So.
It's not a one-up at all. It's when I think about it, I'm thinking, like you said, like the reluctance or the skeptical, like I read a while back about how like true skepticism is a willingness to learn and be open and be taught. Right. And I would say that I am that for sure, because I
think it's very healthy. You should approach all of it with some amount of skepticism.
Yeah.
Because you're not just going to go willy-nilly out in the world trusting everything. I mean, then that's just foolish.
Right. I like my whole thing within this whole spiritual world, right, is this meme that came up yesterday, group that I'm in, pull up a picture, and I don't know if it'll be able to show up at all, but it says a lot of people are obsessed with ascending, but have not yet mastered grounding.
Ooh, I like that.
Right? For me, what that means is like, I know so many people in these spiritual communities, right, who are always looking to have these mystical experiences, right? But the experience of being human, like they're trying to run away from the experience of being human,
totally.
Right? Trying to visualize everything, trying to like have everything be spiritual. I'm like, we're here, we're spiritual bodies, like we're spiritual beings in the physical world, like be human. And
there's an experience you're here to have for sure. Yeah, I mean, I agree that like even just the good vibes only language and all of that stuff, that's like a little bit of gaslighting, right? Like you're not meant to feel good all the time. That's not the human experience.
Right.
You're meant to have some troubles because that's where you learn.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's like a lot of stuff that you're saying with like ayahuasca circles or stuff, is that people they like do these things because they want to have this like mystical experience, right? Instead of actually dealing with what's going on in their body and feeling human. On that post, I posted like just about that same thing. And one of the guys I'm friends with was like, yes, like, go eat a pizza. And I was like, absolutely. I'm like, unless like, cause so many people are like, oh, I can't do this. I can't do that. And I'm like, yes. I'm like, unless it tears your stomach up and you feel like you're going to give birth to an alien for days, like then have a gluten-free, like non-dairy pizza. Like, like you want to have a good human experience.
Right.
But I think that like my reluctance to go all in that world, like the mystical world, is because I've seen too many people who are like, so like, oh, la, la, like, they're like out there, right? But physically their body is taken care of horribly, right? Their space, their physical space is not respected. Like they're both in their body, like how they live, those kind of things. And I'm like, well, but they're like claiming they're so spiritual. And I'm like, that's not where I want to experience, how I want to experience life. And so that's my reluctance to always like dive into those things, because people are so like, there's a term that I learned when I was younger, like growing up in the church, where they talked about people are, they're so heavenly minded that they're no earthly good. And it's true. I find that it can be true, like in like whether it's within the Christian culture, or spiritual culture.
Yeah. And I think there's probably any amount of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like segments of life where you could find that too, right? Like I definitely know the stereotype that you're talking about. And I think I know I've had times where I will shy away from admitting that I would pull a card for something because I don't want people to think I'm that version. But who are we to judge those people, I suppose? I guess. I'm with you. I feel that. I think I've now started to surround myself with so many people that I feel like are more grounded and normal in these practices that I don't have that view anymore.
Yeah.
But certainly I know I have felt it. The first time I ever went to like a mystical bookstore, I was like, these people are weird. I definitely had that feeling. Like I'm not one of these people. But I am in that, I am more in that camp. I just don't present it in this way. And I do feel like I'm, personally grounded in it. And yeah, my thing is all the stuff that we would have called woo-woo. I think we do that. We dismiss it or call it something that seems a little bit like, because, and as we said last time we talked about this, in my mind, it's kind of like, well, I'm owning that. You can call it like silly and weird, but no, I'm just going to own it. So in that case, I don't find it offensive, but I just also see the argument for if we continue to allow people to, not that I'm ever going to correct somebody. If somebody wants to tell me, oh, you're into that woo-woo stuff, I'm never going to be like, please don't say that. I'm not. That's just me.
Right.
I'm not going to personally be like, you just hurt my feelings by calling it that. Like, that's cool. Again, cool. If you think it's wacky and weird, don't practice it. That's fine by me. But yeah, I'm not good at resolving things when we have these conversations. I just talk in circles.
Well, but the resolution, like that would feel best for you is just changing the name, right?
It would just alleviate this angst of I'm continuing to put myself out in the world and perpetuate an idea that is on some level, I don't even know that hurtful is the word, but negative to some people, and dismissive of these things that I enjoy.
Right.
Why that's any different than calling them mystical, I don't know. Right? But somehow that feels okay to me in this moment. I don't know. Maybe next month it will be another term that is deemed terrible and offensive. I don't know.
Right. So, and I'm fine with that. I'm fine with changing the name, and that, like, I like what you said you found and came up with. I'm fine with that. It's funny, and I don't know if this has anything to do with that at all, but I was thinking about how when I went to go to school for health coaching, was changing my diet, and I had people like be like, oh, well, those new age foods you're eating, kale, quinoa, milk, right? And I was like, and these are people who are like from more of a conservative Christian background, and I was like, these are foods that are in the Bible. Like that shit that you're eating, those Doritos, like that processed food that you're eating, that's not even food. Like that's new age stuff. Like that is some wacky stuff.
The term new age never made sense to me, to be honest. My brain was always like, I don't get it.
Right. Yeah.
But whatever.
Yeah. But over the years, I've just had to just like when people were like, oh, that's your like weird new age stuff. And I was like, well, yeah. And that's just your, ignorance, not knowing exactly what it truly is. And that's fine. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
And I guess like for me, where I said, like, I don't, because for me, like with the reluctantly woo woo, it's like, because like I said, it's like, I'm owning this, like I'm owning it. Like, yeah, it does. Like when you are in the physical world, this stuff seems wacky. Like
Right.
it does. And like, if we just allow ourselves to not be so attached to the physical world, man, there's so much power there.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
I agree. I 100% agree with that. I think where my like angst about it comes from is someone just seeing, oh, I host this podcast, Reluctantly Woo Woo, and then being like, oh, what the fuck are you like? Why? You know what I mean? Like fear of judgment, I guess. I mean, I don't want to have to explain myself every single time, which maybe I don't have to, but I feel this need to justify, and that's just so draining to me. I'd rather just, I don't want to say concede. I want to do it out of respect. I'm trying to do good things in the world. I'm trying to be right. And I really feel like this is something I'm being very called to share and help people with the energy healing that I just, started doing the sound healing stuff. There's all these things that are bubbling up for me that I know are the things ultimately I need to put out there. I'm still getting comfortable with putting it out there. So every time I get exposed to like some other way that I'm doing it wrong, I'm like, okay, well, let me try to make it right.
and that's exhausting.
It is exhausting. It's almost like sometimes I want to just bury my head in the sand and be like, screw this. I'm going to continue to do it the way that I want to do it, because I've just, again, it's trying to learn from other people. And maybe I do need to kind of step back and put a shield up for a little while or something, because there is some of that where like it's constantly coming at you. Like you aren't supposed to be doing this practice if you weren't born in this region and you don't have 5 generations of that. And sometimes I'm like, oh, well, I mean, it just starts to feel like there is a narrower path of what is okay for me to pursue given this physical body that I've been dumped into for this go round. Right? Like, I mean, I can't cry victim about any of it, but
right.
It's just, I'm trying to do the right things. I'm trying to honor the history of all of these things that I just feel like are part of my soul and do it in the best way that I can. So if calling something woo-woo is not taking me in the right path, which is not, it's feeling like it's not, then I can't keep doing it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And so, like I said, I'm totally fine. We change it. Like, that's fine. Like my question just be like my coach's hat is like, okay, when do you stop going around trying to please everybody? Right? Because it's like, well, I need to create this container to make me feel safe. And I need to create this container to make me feel safe. And this person tells me I shouldn't. So then I'm like pretzeling myself constantly, to like make people around me who are happy. Like, when does that stop?
That's interesting, because now you're going to like coach me here. No, because I definitely have suffered from the people pleaser, syndrome a lot, but I really feel like I've cast it aside. And now that's revealing that maybe not 100%, but I think I'm not sure how much of, wanting to change our name is people pleasing. I think there's some element there. I don't have a lot of capacity to just be like, I don't give a crap if you're happy or not. I'm going to do me. I'm not always that way. I am to some extent. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just something to think about. And it's not like, neither of us are going around like, F you, we're just gonna, like there is so many things. Like I can, look on the internet and be offended by everything. Like, it is offensive to me. It is absolutely, like, we're going to use the word offensive. Like, it is absolutely offensive to me when I see people walking around that are 200 pounds overweight eating crappy food. like, especially in this day and age when like people are so, like I'm so afraid of getting sick, and like they're shoving crap in their face and thinking that defensive methods are going to help them. Like that's offensive to me as a human because all of the impact that has on our earth, like on so many different levels, right? Like economic, on nature, all that kind of stuff. And it's like for me this week, past 2 weeks have been really hard because of just seeing that. And like we've been seeing it for the past, I've been seeing it for the past since I, had my like awakening, into this world of health coaching and stuff. Like, and it's like, how many times do I just have to keep my mouth shut? Because
right. Well, you can't say what you just said without offending somebody as well. They're offended that you're offended.
Exactly. And if I say that I'm in the wrong, I'm like, oh, it's exhausting. So
yeah, I think you have a thicker skin for it than I do for sure. At least, I don't know. Your outward portrayal to me is that you can just be like, yeah, sorry that bothers you. I'm just going to say it anyway or whatever. I don't have much of that capacity. It's difficult for me.
I mean, I'm a super highly sensitive person. And I take on energy so much. I mean, my dad all the time would yell at me like, you're just too sensitive. Mm-hmm. And I've realized that I've had to put on that outer shell, right? Because inside I'm so like to me, I'm like, I'm an egg, I got the tough outer shell, but inner, like it is exhausting, like so exhausting being me. And, I can sit there and like, seem like I have that, but I was talking to somebody the other day and I was like, like even I look in the realm of coaching where like most coaches, if somebody comes to call disempowered, the coach is like, you need to get in an empowered state and then we'll talk. Right. And I'm like, no, my job is to help them, right? Because they've come to the call in a disempowered state because they don't know how to step into that empowering place. So my job is to sit with them. And like the amount of time, you weren't, but I have clients who like have to really like sit with them for a long time. And it is challenging, right? Because it's like, you have to be super sensitive and I get overwhelmed by the world.
So I have felt it a lot. Just, I don't know, this week in particular, I have felt it a lot. I mean, this particular topic was seriously stressing me out. But in a lot of ways, it's been, I feel that weight too of, I don't know always like, I don't walk around questioning my place in the world, but I feel like I have been doing that for the past like week or two, kind of like, I don't really know what, like, I don't know, like it just, a lot of it makes me question, like, what right do I have to think that I can do this work? Or, there's just been a lot of that going on for me. Yes, which is exhausting and overwhelming.
Yeah. And it's like, I can't get my wish of people calling stuff that's not food, stop calling it food, like I would love if we can change that. Like, it's so offensive to me when somebody says something's food. I'm like, that's not at all. Like, right? I'm never going to get that. But I have to resolve that within myself. But if one, I hate that you've like been really stressed about it because it does like, it's the name of the podcast that it's not like, we're like, we're not Joe Rogan. Like,
I'm pretty sure nobody's listening to our podcast.
Yeah. Like, like, what are we doing? We're not doing a ton to market it. We're not doing a ton of stuff to put it out there. Right. Like maybe it was that started actually doing that'd be a different, different thing. But
well, I would not feel comfortable pushing ourselves out there knowing what I now know with our current name. I mean, that's just kind of what happens. Like somebody tells you something and you're like, God, I was happier when I didn't know that.
I know. Sharon just said I'm listening. Thank you, Sharon. And it's funny because I was thinking about writing this post recently about like, what I wish I never did was I wish I never went to school for health coaching. I wish I would have never spent like 4 deep immersive years like studying about health and how like the impact of food, not only on our bodies, but on the environment. I wish I didn't know that at this point right now. I say that I'm glad that I did, but like at the state of the world right now, I wish I didn't because again, it's my biggest thing. It's so frustrating when I see people thinking that like a mask and a vaccine is going to save them when they eat like shit and have diabetes and heart disease and all this stuff. Like, like, I'm like, gosh, I wish I was ignorant. Like life would be so much easier.
Yeah.
So much easier, right? But, and I've talked to, like, I was talking to somebody else today who was just saying that the past like week and a half, 2 weeks have been really hard for them. So I don't know if like, let's talk about things that are, and see, I'm going to say woo woo, like, I know that like talk about things that are mystical or whatever. Like, is there something going on astrologically that is causing a lot of angst in people?
Yes, probably. I mean, this is not something, I'm not super well versed in astrology, but I study it a little bit, or I pay attention to it. I don't study it, I guess, but I haven't looked specifically at this week. I have this one app though, actually, might tell me something.
Which app is it?
It's actually called Stardust, and it links your cycle with the moon cycle, and then gives you kind of like insights about where you typically might be energetically for the day or whatever. Yeah. Stardust. I love it. It's cute. Like their design is pretty cute. But like it'll tell you like your hormones, like where you are in your hormone level and how that might be affecting you. Like I do like that they aren't like, they're not super prescriptive. It's just like some insights, which I don't like to necessarily, like I like to wake up in the day and think like, just how am I feeling? What do I expect before I rely on anything to tell me what to expect for the day? Because I'm not going to, I can make my own judgment call there, but it is interesting. I've only been using it for about 1 month. It is pretty freaking interesting how often like I remember to check it like halfway through the day and I'm like, okay, that makes sense. That is, but so this is mostly related to the moon, not the entire astrological system, but let's see, we're in waxing crescent. That doesn't tell me a lot right now. Like this is all stuff I'm super interested in. I'm not knowledgeable, so I shouldn't talk like I know anything, but I do think 100% anytime, like if 2 or 3 of my friends say I've been having the same experience for a week, I'm like, okay, then it's definitely just something bigger.
Right.
So it almost helps me relax about it. Cause I'm like, oh, okay, everybody's going through it. We're all just going through something. Like this isn't me screwing something up.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I feel like the skeptic and the mystic might be a fun way to approach it. And it doesn't have to be that always you're pigeonholed as the skeptic and I'm the mystic or whatever. Right. We kind of just talk about mystical things and the skeptical side and then why they work. It's all the same. It's the same show we've been doing.
Yeah. I'm fine with that. I mean, as long as you're the one going around doing the tech stuff that I don't want to do, Yeah,
I think I just have to, I'm going to keep our same Instagram handle, just change it. And everything that was old and called that, like, I'm perfectly willing to be vulnerable and let people know if somebody's going to be like, dude, did you know woo-woo was offensive? Yeah, I did. That's why we changed it. Like we can keep the old thing there. We can keep this very organic, real conversation about, somebody enlightens you about something. Okay, then now I will take action and do something about it. Very sorry if I was perpetuating something that I was completely ignorant to. Now I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I will say that for me, that's been my frustration so much of lately is that people unwilling to have conversations with each other, whether it's about politics, whether it's about health, whether it's about something. I had a guy messaged me the other day because I sent him a video in it because I was like, well, what about this? And then he's like, well, I didn't know that you were an expert of viruses. And I was like, dude, that's just such a low level of engagement, right? Like, you know what? I have studied a lot of stuff. And so I thought about it and I was like, well, I can reply back to him too and say the same thing. Like, I didn't know that you were either, to say that I don't know what I'm talking about. You know more than me because you say that my thought is wrong. Like, right. Like people are attacking each other instead of arguing the points of the discussion. Like,
Well, and also, let's just go back to the fact that we are all freaking human, right? Like, I don't know, this is my little like hippie vibe, but like, Jesus Christ, we're all fucking trying our best. We really are.
And how many people will be like, you just used Jesus's name in vain. That's really offensive. Like,
You're right.
you know, like we're all going to be offended. You know,
I'm not gonna stop saying the F word. I can't and I won't apologize for that one. I love to say fuck.
Oh man, me too. Yeah. And I've learned, because I remember years ago, Deb, I was with my brother, and I was like, when I was like super conservative, and you know, he was you know, cursing, and I was like, stop talking like that around me. You know, that's just disrespectful. And that, you know, there may be some level of that, you know, but now I'm like, roll my eyes at myself.
Yeah. I do swear like a sailor. And you know what? That is funny, because proof that I'm not 100% people pleaser, because I'm not saying fuck you. I'm just like, I like to throw an F-bomb in there once in a while.
Sharon said she loves your hippie vibe.
Yay. I can't see the comments when they come up on here. So
yeah. Well, so yeah, we changed the name, you know, and you know, but I will say, like, if you know, 5 months down the road, it's like somebody has a problem with, like, you know, putting those two words together. I mean, then and then we might be like, okay, let's think of something.
I already Googled it beforehand to see if it was a problem anywhere. As of March 19th, 2021, I think we're good. So
I mean, yeah, I mean, look at like, you know, I mean, seriously, like all the stuff that now everybody's getting offended by, like friggin' Mr. Potato Head. Like this time last year, nobody was offended by that. Now people are offended by it. Who knows?
Goodness. I can't even honestly, I'm going to sound like an asshole. I know we even talked about this and it did not store in my brain. What's the problem with Mr. Potato Head? Because he's Mr.?
Is he Mr.?
Okay.
And that's where, for me, like, I'm just like, and I know probably the people that aren't saying that aren't, but I know people in the spiritual community who are like, yeah, we need to get rid of genders. And I'm like, but you constantly say that you're praying to Mama Earth, to Mama Gaia.
Well, and I have no problem with people wanting to have a unique gender identity. How about instead of getting rid of Mr., we add a non-binary potato head? I don't know what you want to call him, but call it some, or them, I guess. I really do want to respect these things, but it's a challenge for a lot of us. And I don't see how, I mean, we're going to go down a whole different rabbit hole, but I don't see how erasing gender solves a damn thing. Now, what is so wrong with me being a female? Am I wrong for being female and enjoying being female? I fully respect whatever anybody else wants to do, but why do we have to? Okay, I don't want to go down that road, but
conversation.
Yeah.
Conversation. So
yeah. I mean, I'm willing to hear anybody out. I really am. I really, truly am open-minded and I want to be considerate, but I am with you where at some point we're taking this like, I mean, eventually we have to all settle down and stop looking for stuff like that. Yeah. But I will, for sure, I am willing to, when I do agree that something maybe could be different, I'm willing to explore that and change it. So I'm happy to change us to the skeptic and the mystic. And in 3 months, if someone hates it, I might say, too bad.
Fuck you.
Yeah, I might say, fuck you.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. With all the love in the world, I will say that. Comes from a loving place. My big FU.
On that note, we're going to wrap up. David said they, them, Sharon, another Sharon. She said, you know, have a Mr. and Mrs. and whatever you want to call it. That's kind of the deal. But
that would make sense to me. Right. Yeah.
Yes. But there's I'll wrap up with this. There's a funny, do you know who John Crist is? Mm-mm. He's a comedian.
More God, I would hate to be a comedian in this day and age.
Oh, well, I'll have to find it and send it to you on because he had to this video going through Target to the toy section and just like, cancel. He's like, Uno, you can't have fun on that. Like, we're not having fun on expensive Latinos saying Uno, Chinese checkers. Nope, got to get rid of those. Like, pirate ship. Like, now we're promoting pillaging. Like, nope, get rid of that. And
so interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. David says, go back to woo woo.
Which David? Not my cousin.
No, not your cousin. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's funny. Well, who knows?
Yeah, we'll see. But I want you to get sleep. I mean, it's not worth losing sleep over. And also, it's not worth like being swayed by everybody's opinion. Because at the end of the day, you're going to piss people off. And you know that you're doing something good when you start pissing people off.
This is true.
Yeah.
This is true. All right. Let the haters come on.
Yeah. For watching and tuning in, and keep those. Sharon said, "Stop being so freaking sensitive, people." Yeah, I hear it. Well, I'm with you off on lots of conversations, but you gotta go. And we will say goodbye. Have a good day, everybody. Bye. Bye.